But this is pickleball fountain of youth. So, I have found my youth playing pickleball, I have to say. As soon as I walk on the court, all of a sudden I'm young again.
Yeah.
And I forget all my aches. I forget my back arthritis. I forget my hip arthritis. I forget, I had rotator cuff surgery. My
Pickleball Fountain of Youth with Hall of Famer Steve Paranto.
Steve Paranto here with the Pickleball Fountain of Youth podcast. We have a great episode today with my good friend Judy Hoarfrost. I'm going to have Judy introduce herself, but I will tell you she's coming from a very interesting sports background. Judy, could you tell us about your background and it definitely led into pickleball?
Okay, sure. Well, people know me from table tennis, the sport of table tennis. I was born in the state of Washington in Longview, so I am a local girl, and I do consider myself a native Oregonian. Mm-hmm. Actually, before I was born, my dad played table tennis when he was in the service for a couple of years. When he went to Korea, he played. My whole life, whenever we would find a house to live in, it always had to have a room for table tennis. There always had to be space for a ping pong table. So we always played at home. And, I'd play with my dad, and he said, I'll give you a nickel if you get 100 shots in a row. And we're playing, forehand to forehand. And, so we always played. It was fun, like a lot of people just play at home for fun. But we also went to the table tennis club. And my dad always had a table tennis club. If a city didn't have a club, he would make one. And so, so when I was 14, we moved to Eugene, Oregon. And I started high school there, went to, middle school and high school. By then, I was playing in tournaments from the age of 11. I was the national junior champion of my age group all the way through. And at the age of 15, I was on the U.S. national team. We went to China for ping pong diplomacy. It was my first trip to the World Championships right prior to that in 1971. And then that led to going to China that year when we were invited at the World Championships to go to China for ping pong diplomacy. And then I continued to play on the team for another, 10, 12 years, going to several World Championships, traveling the world for table tennis. It was a great life.
How did all this table tennis competition as a teenager interfere with going to high school?
Oh, I only went to high school for 2.5 years, because it was a 3-year high school. And then I missed a lot of school when I went to China and Japan for the World Championships when I was a sophomore. Well, it came back to senior year. I was going to go again to my next World Championships, which was in what was then called Yugoslavia. I didn't want to have to miss school and come back, and they even made me make up my PE classes. And my dad's like, you were on the national, you shouldn't have to be making up PE, but I had to make up PE even. So anyway, I decided to graduate early. And then I just traveled and went to Europe and went to the World Championships. And then I came back, and then I worked at the Oregon legislature as a page for the rest of the summer, earned some money for school, and went off to Stanford in the fall on a full scholarship. So it was great.
Well, not only being in the Table Tennis Hall of Fame, but you're in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes.
You were very
Yes.
This is a very famous person at that time period. In fact, I think, weren't you even in like a Rosaria something?
Yeah. The year I got back, I was the Grand Marshal of the Portland Rose Parade.
Yeah, and that's a big thing here in the Portland area.
Yeah. It was great. I gave a speech with Governor McCall, and got to ride in the back of and I learned to do the wave, and it was fun. It was great fun. And I did so many speeches all over. I was on the Today Show, interviewed by Barbara Walters, and we did half times of Blazer games, and it was just it just went on and on and on, and it still goes on and on and on. We've had anniversary trips to China, like we've done like a 40th anniversary trip. We did the 35th anniversary trip. We would have done a major 50th anniversary, but it was COVID. So I did a virtual game with one of the Chinese players, and they televised it in China, millions of people and that kind of thing. I was introduced by a table tennis friend in 2020, right before the pandemic, and
To pickleball.
Mm-hmm. And I just was addicted from day one. Just loved it. It was so much fun. And early on, I was invited by Lala, and Steve was there, and he goes, would you like to come back tomorrow for a free lesson? And so I came,
I
and
probably already asked you your age by then too, knowing that, oh, we're just about the same.
well, that's what he did. He said, "How old are you?" And I told him, turns out we're exactly the same age. Although he likes to say, "Oh, you're older," because it's like 2 or 3 months, a couple months older, but we're the same age. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to groom you to be my mixed doubles partner." So it's worked out great for me. I've learned a ton from Steve. Pickleball just took off from there. And, I got to go to I got to go to nationals, played with Steve and played with a women's partner. We won nationals that year.
Her first year at nationals, winning women's doubles at the highest level for your age group.
Yeah. Over 65.
Yeah, at that time.
If we have to mention age group. But this is pickleball fountain of youth. So, I have found my youth playing pickleball, I have to say. It really makes, as soon as I walk on the court, all of a sudden I'm young again.
Yeah.
And I forget all my aches. I forget my back arthritis. I forget my hip arthritis. I forget, I had rotator cuff surgery, my shoulder.
Just a year ago.
Yeah. And get on the court and I'm young again. So I just love that.
Yeah, that's what I find too. I mean, most of the time, you and I, when we're playing in groups, we're the oldest people.
Yeah.
But,
story of my life.
But
pickleball.
but it is pretty cool to think about it, because when you're competing against 19-year-olds, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and doing a good job competing against them. You've been on we have in Oregon what we call the Oregon Women's Team Cup. First, it was originally a men's team cup. Wes Gabrielson started it. And then Joy Lysing continued it with the women. And so our best women in Oregon get drafted on a team. Anyway, your team has, and you were a captain of a team last year, has won the last 2 years.
We won 2 years in a row, and I was in the final championship match. One year we had a big upset to win, my team to win that year.
And you were you the oldest contestant?
I'm always the oldest.
And so that makes you feel pretty young, doesn't it? When you can do that and compete.
Yeah, as long as I don't look in the mirror and I'm just playing pickleball, I feel like I'm one of the kids.
I always enjoyed history of sports. And so when I was in high school, hearing about, because I was playing in my garage with my parents, that was one of our games, was table tennis. In fact, table tennis led me to tennis, which led me to pickleball. So playing garage table tennis with my parents, really, that was my first paddle racket sport. But I knew who you were because I knew about the team that they called Ping Pong Diplomacy. And those of you who don't know about that team, that was a big deal in that period of time because of politics with America and China. A lot of people know about that team because of the movie Forrest Gump. And I would say most people, that's how they know about that even happened. I always tell people, well, she was on that team. That, well, that scene from Forrest Gump where that was based on your team.
Nutshell, I'm Forrest Gump. But the interesting thing, for me anyway, is my company, Paddle Palace Table Tennis, we actually sold them a table that they used in the movie Forrest Gump. I even had, my brother had even framed their purchase order, and they wanted like an old table that so they could use in the barracks, that was kind of old fashioned, that they would use in those days, and so we provided that.
So I knew who you were because of all that, and I even remember going to your here's my table tennis.
I know.
I have a table right over here that you and I'll hit on later.
He bought it from our company.
I bought it from your company
before he knew me.
Before I knew you, and those were used on your floor because she has a club. She owns a table tennis club that also sells. It's very similar to what Pickleball Central does, but that was on your floor for players to play.
Oh, okay.
That was one of your floor.
You bought it used?
I bought it used.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a used table.
Pretty good condition.
Well, I got to pick. You had like 12 of them there for sale because you were buying all new ones.
Oh yeah, right.
But I knew who she was, and I think I was with my good friend Rod Miller, and who you know now, and because of pickleball. But he knew who you were because when he was in junior high, you toured all around doing exhibitions, and you came to his junior high. And he was the best table tennis player at the junior high, so he got to play with you.
Yeah, I've done hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah.
After we came back from China, it was like a really big thing. So for 2 summers after we got back from China, I toured the country in shopping centers and took on all challengers. And we just played, for hours every day, taking on challengers. And then my brother Michael and I would also do table tennis exhibitions. And then I also developed the school exhibitions. We developed a program and went around to all these different schools and
That was
scheduled
probably what.
it. And I had a really good partner, friend from Asia who was really good. And we had all kinds of tricks. It wasn't just when you watch us play table tennis, trying to make the other guy miss. When you're doing an exhibition, you're trying to make the other guy look good. And we had all kinds of funny stuff where we would climb up we would be playing a point and then he hits it real short and you climb up on the table and then we end up both sitting on the table and hitting. And then he hits a hard one and then you jump off and then you're doing all kinds of stuff. Play with a big paddle, play with a tiny little paddle. We would play with 2 balls.
At the same
or
time.
actually we'd start with 3 balls and then you miss and then you're playing with 2 balls and then you miss and you're playing with 1 ball and then you finish the point out and and a lot of lobbing. Like I'm an offensive player. I stand close to the table. I'm just trying to make the guy miss. But when we do exhibitions, we're back from the table, we're lobbing and then we're counter driving and you can make it be really fun and exciting. And we did a lot of exhibitions in schools and did a lot of fun stuff.
I thought it was funny that Rod said to you, "Do you remember me?" Like
you did that all the time.
Yeah.
At my company, people call up and, I played you in this exhibition in Southern California. And he remembers it, and the guy remembers the name of the mall. They remember what the score was. They remember everything. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I remember that. No way.
Now, you were only a 15-year-old when you went to China. You were the youngest member of that team?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy that you experienced all that as a 15-year-old. I don't know. I don't think I would have been ready for that as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Are you still friends with some of those people on that team?
Absolutely.
I know. I kind of know the answer because you had some friends watch us in Arizona. Yeah.
Well, our delegation was actually 15 people. 7 of them were players. And out of all 15 people, there's only, besides me, there's only 3 still alive. I was the youngest. So actually the 3 women who went to China on the team are still alive. And then a guy who's 94, Tim Bogan. And he and I
remember
emailed.
that name.
He was an official then. He was probably 40 then. He's the one who wrote for the New York Times when we got back. He was an English professor, and he is just the coolest guy. And we email almost every day still because he's a prolific writer and has a.
Didn't he have a table tennis book?
He's written the whole history of table tennis in the United States, and the volumes are. Can you see me? Are like this wide.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I had one of his books. I learned how to play table tennis. Back then we didn't have YouTube, so from a book as a Sports Illustrated used to come out with all these little books. So if you wanted to learn how to shoot a basketball, you could get a Sports Illustrated book. If you wanted to learn how to hit a tennis ball. And I had one by Dick Miles.
Oh,
Do you remember that name?
Well, Dick went to China with us.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, he was an official on our team. One of our 15 people that went to China.
I wish I don't know if I still have that book, but it was a little Sports Illustrated book, and I had a whole series of those at every sport I wanted to get good at.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned.
He wrote for Sports Illustrated too a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was put out by Sports
And
Illustrated.
he did the announcements for like when it was on ESPN or different things like that. Yeah.
He's probably not alive.
No.
Yeah. Now tell us how that all happened, because I know you've told me it was kind of an accident that this happened. You guys being invited to China.
Well, and we didn't know before we went that we were going. I mean, I had tried out for the U.S. team, made it probably by the skin of my teeth. I was the youngest. I hadn't been outside of North America. I had never been to the World Championships. Had never been to any international tournaments. Made the U.S. team, and we went to Japan, and then it was in those days the World Championships was only every 2 years, and we would do all the singles events like the doubles, the mixed, and the singles, and all that individual events. and that would be a week long. And then we'd have the team events, which is one country against another, for the second week. So it's 2 week long thing. The last day of the tournament, we got the invitation from the Chinese team to go to China. And 2 days later, we were in China. So we did not know we were going. It was all like all of a sudden. And the second we got, and it was actually backtracking, it was a really, really big deal in 1971 that the Chinese went to the World Championships, because they were in the midst of the Cultural Revolution. And they were very isolated from the rest of the world. And the table tennis players hadn't been playing in international competition. This was the first time that they were venturing out. First time they were at the World Championships for a number of years since the beginning of the Cultural Revolution. So it was a very big deal that the Chinese
And they were
there.
good.
And they were still very, very good. But we didn't know that they would be good, because we heard about, some of the players were sent to sweep streets. Some of the players were, in prison. I mean, some bad things happened to a lot of people, including table tennis players. And table tennis is sort of politicized in China. It became national sport because Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong liked the sport and they loved to play. The story goes, they played in the caves during the Cultural Revolution. They played table tennis. They call it ping pong. They still call it ping pong in China. Yeah, because they don't care about trade names. The Table Tennis Association of China, the Chinese Table Tennis Association, was very much part of the political structure of China as well. So, and very well funded.
Now, didn't you tell me there was like a unique character on your team that got on the wrong bus or something that led into all that happening?
Yeah. Yeah, so part of our story is one of our team members, Glenn Cowan, who's not with us now, but he was from Southern California, and he was, the press was very much interested in Glenn because he had the long hair and he had the hippie clothes, and he talked the hippie lifestyle and that kind of thing. And when we were at the World Championships, Glenn, in typical Glenn fashion, was, didn't come back with the team. He was off and got separated from us, and he was late, and he stepped out, and, where's the bus? And there's the Chinese bus. And they motioned him on the bus, and he got on the Chinese team bus. And he interacted with Chong Su-tong, who was, had been numerous times, 4 times, I think, world champion. So big name in table tennis or ping pong in China. And Chong Su-tong gave him a gift, which was a silk scarf with a beautiful picture on it. And so anyway, he got on the wrong bus with the Chinese. And then he gets back and he's like blown away by this. And he goes, well, I have to get a gift. So he goes out, into the tunnels of, because it was really cool in Nagoya, Japan. You go underground. I'd never seen this coming from Eugene, Oregon. The underground, they have this whole shopping mall that goes on for miles. And he went and looked and found a shirt that said, let it be. And it had the American flag on it. And he gave it to, he found a time when we were at the stadium when the cameras were present, and because because it was a big deal that the Chinese were there, and are they going to be talking to any U.S. players and that kind of thing? Well, he gave him the gift there at the stadium, and so the story goes, Mao Zedong hears about this, and there had already been some talk about some teams getting invited to China, but that was the background. And the story goes, Mao Zedong heard about this exchange, and he said, yes, do invite the American team. And the rest is history.
Did you ever meet Nixon? Did you ever get to?
Well, we did, and people always say, oh, did you go to China with Nixon or something? Well, we were there before President Nixon. It's because of us. I mean, the U.S. and China were trying to come together, but we had no diplomatic relations. They had no way. of picking up a phone and talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But both sides were trying to, come together and talk. And so we went in the spring of 1971, and Nixon went to China in 1972. Kind of paved the way, kind of
Yeah,
secretly.
it was
Yeah, but we met him.
very
Actually,
big political.
we did meet President Nixon. And when that happened was a year after we were in China for ping pong diplomacy. We had a reciprocal trip where we had invited the Chinese team to come to the United States. So they came and traveled around 1972 in the spring for 2 weeks. Nice kind of a rapid red carpet tour of the United States, and I got to accompany them then.
Nice.
And one part of that trip was going to the White House and
Wow.
meeting President
Wow.
Nixon. Yeah.
Back in the day, now we're talking, I'm going to Pacific University and I'm playing tennis at Pacific. That's, tennis got me into helped me become a college student. I don't know what I would have done if it wasn't for the sport of tennis. That's what really
Sports are great.
motivated. Yeah, that's what motivated me to go to college. But anyway, I was playing tennis for Pacific University, so that's near Portland, and I still played table tennis at the dorms and so forth. And I thought, well, I'm going to go to this place called Paddle Palace, downtown Portland. Well, your dad was there, and your dad gave me a lesson on table tennis, and I think he actually rated me too. Now, since then, you guys have moved, maybe more than once. In fact, I know more than once. Tell us about your business,
Sure.
Paddle Palace.
Yeah, sure. The name Paddle Palace came from the original table tennis club, which was the one that you visited, which was in downtown Portland. It opened in 1973. The name Paddle Palace came because this beautiful building, had chandeliers. It was in the ballroom, and it had chandeliers, and it had columns. It had carved angels in the ceiling. It was like a palace, so we called it Paddle Palace. Well, it was just a club in those days, which was at the time the only full-time table tennis center of its kind in the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we would have like the Japanese team come, and all kinds of people from all over the world would come and visit. So that's the original Paddle Palace. It transitioned to an equipment company, and we have become the North American distributor for the major brands of table tennis. We're probably the biggest of our kind, selling direct to the public, and also we sell wholesale. But we
tables, paddles,
and we sell tables,
robots.
Paddles. We have our own brand of robots.
Yeah.
We know everything about table tennis. In fact, we say everything for the table tennis player. When we moved to our beautiful building in downtown Tigard, we had space to put in a table tennis club. So we now have like a 7,000 square foot.
How many tables do you have?
We set up 10 or 11 at a time, and we have tournaments there.
What year did table tennis get into the Olympics?
So it was in the 80s, so it was after my time. I think it was 80, don't quote me on this, I think it was around 1984, 86, right in there.
Did that change the respect of table tennis? What did that do? Because we're, as pickleball players, most everybody is hoping that we get in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll help colleges, high schools develop teams even more than we are now. Did it help table tennis?
I think it's really helped, especially in this country, because table tennis is a huge sport all over the world. In fact, it's the only sport, I think it's still the only sport where every country in the world is a member of the International Table Tennis Federation, which is a huge achievement for any sport to do that.
Our sport, pickleball, has got the reputation, and it's truly an earned reputation of as being such a social sport. I mean, in fact, we make so many friends.
Oh, so great.
Does that happen in the world of table tennis too? Are you
similar?
Oh,
absolutely. I mean, my whole life has been, and worldview has been shaped from starting with table tennis, because I met people from all different, I mean, especially in table tennis, it's a very international sport. So I met people from all over the world here in our country. But then also it's not just, you're not just playing people your own age and sex and from your same city and your same school. I mean, you're playing people from all walks of life. I mean, when you go down to the club, you're a friend with old people, young people, Yeah, we're friends.
Well, Judy, I'm so glad we did this podcast. I think people are going to be interested not only pickleball people, but your table tennis population might be wanting to watch this too. They might learn something about the history of
Well, they'll think
your
I'm a traitor,
history.
but
Yeah, yeah.